It's one of those trades that we decided we would try and figure out, and we might not be able to, what would be the baseball equivalent to this trade? Because it's wild. It's absolutely wild that they did this.
You are Locked On Yankees, your daily New York Yankees podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Yankees, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making us your first listen every day. I'm Stacey Gotsulias. Super Bowl 59 is here, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. With me, as usual, my co-host, Brian McKeon. Brian, happy Monday.
Happy Monday. Happy holiday week. It's Super Bowl week. My favorite holiday of the year.
I was going to say, I'm like, wait, am I missing a holiday? Yeah.
The most important holiday of the year.
Before we get started, don't forget to subscribe to Locked On Yankees on whichever podcasting platform you prefer. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube, like our videos, hit the bell so you're notified when those videos go live. On today's show, another MLB owner is crying poor. We will discuss that. Jonathan Papelbon says that Aaron Judge is a regular season player. We'll discuss that as well. But first, the biggest news around sports, the Luka Doncic trade that woke everyone up Saturday night into Sunday morning. I actually had fallen asleep early, got up, and then, I don't know, I checked my phone because I always check my phone even if I wake up in the middle of the night. And all I saw were people freaking out. I'm like, what's going on? I'm like, oh no, what happened? Because with everything that's been going on this last week, who knows? And then I saw, and I thought, huh? I thought it was a joke. I really did. Like, I didn't believe Shams's tweet when I saw it because I saw a screenshot of it. And I mean, my gosh, it's one of those trades that we decided we would try and figure out, and we might not be able to, what would be the baseball equivalent to this trade? Because it's wild. It's absolutely wild that they did this.
I think from my knowledge, I was the same thing. I fell asleep on the couch and woke up and looked at my phone and I was like, how much did I drink last night? What? And yeah, it's one of the more shocking trades that I've seen in sports in a while, but also one of the more lopsided trades that I've seen in a long time. And I think what's funny about it is a lot of people, when it comes to lopsidedness, always bring up the Giancarlo Stanton trade when the Yankees acquire him. Because the Yankees took on Giancarlo Stanton and they really gave Starlin Castro back. That's really pretty much it in that trade to the Marlins. The only difference in that is the Yankees ate a large portion of that salary, of that contract, so it made sense from a financial standpoint. This trade, the salaries are matching between Anthony Davis and Luka Doncic. It really made complete no sense. I struggled all day trying to think of a trade similar that there was just matching value just wasn't at all there, and it wasn't even close. This trade, from a basketball perspective, makes absolute zero sense. I don't comprehend it. I don't get it. I don't know why you would trade a young player that's really not even in his prime yet, that took you to the finals last year. Makes no sense. But we decided, as we were texting earlier today, what baseball parallel could there be? Who is the player in baseball right now that is the Anthony Davis? An aging superstar that's on the back end of his prime, that still produces, but is also made of glass and can't stay healthy. Who is that guy? And who is the young player in baseball who's entering his prime, who's really good, who's making a ton of money, but generally stays healthy and generally produces like crazy and has these amazing numbers? And why would you ever give up on this guy? And I came up with a very, very interesting one that I think is really accurate. And I think a lot of people, when they hear declining superstar, back end of his prime, who's always hurt, think of Mike Trout, because they think Mike Trout is that exact definition of a player. I'll tell you why I wouldn't add that one in. Because from a Yankee perspective, this is Locked On Yankees. We're going to use Aaron Judge as the Luka Doncic in this conversation, right? Superstar in his prime, makes a ton of money, relatively healthy, and puts up these crazy numbers. Also took his team to a championship. I'm not going to include Mike Trout because, believe it or not, many people don't realize this. I certainly knew it, but didn't realize it. Mike Trout and Aaron Judge are the same age.
Yeah.
Mike Trout just came up really young and took the league by storm, but Mike Trout and Aaron Judge are the same age. So I moved on from that one. And weirdly enough, the combo that I came up with, Stacey, is a guy that's also on the New York Yankees. So let's pretend for a second that these guys are on separate teams. And the other guy I'm thinking of is Giancarlo Stanton. Let's pretend Giancarlo Stanton is a Los Angeles Dodger. And let's pretend that Aaron Judge is a New York Yankee. And let's pretend you woke up last night, looked at your phone, and the Yankees had traded their outfielder, Aaron Judge, for the Dodgers outfielder, Giancarlo Stanton, straight up. How would you feel?
That would certainly be weird.
Yeah. And that's the same way that I felt about this trade. And Giancarlo Stanton, for what it's worth, when healthy, puts up crazy numbers. And I know a lot of you don't want to hear that and don't believe that. Giancarlo Stanton's career, and so take it for what it's worth, but these are his career numbers. You can't argue these, right? His career 162 game pace, Stacey, is 42 home runs, 108 RBIs. Really, really good player, right? Really, really, not quite Aaron Judge, but really, really good player. Aaron Judge's career splits, again, on a 162 game pace, is 57 home runs and 123 RBIs. That's absurd. That's kind of very similar to the pace that Luka Doncic puts up, where he averages 28 points a game, 14 assists, and like 10 rebounds. Luka Doncic is 25 years old, in the middle of his prime. He was traded for an aging superstar, Anthony Davis, who still is not quite at the level that Luka Doncic is. Even though Davis is great, he's not quite Luka Doncic great. There's like a little bit of a step below that. Davis is not quite that player, which is where I see Judge and Stanton. I think Stanton's an unbelievable player. I think he's at the top echelon of superstars in Major League Baseball. I genuinely believe that. But Aaron Judge is a top 3 player in the sport. Aaron Judge, when he's at his height, is a top 2 player in the sport, I believe. At times, he's the best player. At times, he's number 2. But I think overall, Aaron Judge is a top 3 player in the sport. I think Giancarlo Stanton, when he's on, is a top 20 player in the sport. Hitter in the sport. Let's just call it that way. But Giancarlo Stanton seems to be made of glass. He is, you can pencil him in or pen him in for 2 IL stints per year. You just can. I hate it that that's the truth. I know you hate that's the truth, but it is. Anthony Davis is the same way. Pencil him out for 20 games missed every single year, no matter what. They're both productive. They're both towards the end of their primes. They both make great money, and you would never, ever, ever trade both of them for a young superstar talent who just won your team their conference in each respective sport. Aaron Judge just did that for the Yankees. Luka Doncic just did that for the Mavericks. And for some reason, that trade happened in the NBA, and I don't think it would ever happen in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, I saw some funny trade, people coming up with comparisons. Like one guy said, this would be like trading 2014 Mike Trout for 2024 Mike Trout.
That's the best one. And that's actually a really good comparison because back then Trout was healthy, putting up crazy numbers, and now he's always hurt and still puts up great numbers when he plays. He doesn't play.
Yeah.
It is really hard to find a good comp. It's really hard. And that just, to me, that shows how insane this trade is. That you can't find a legitimate comp because it's such a crazy trade.
Yeah. Aaron Gleeman, who writes for The Athletic, he's the Twins writer for The Athletic. He put on Blue Sky, he said, this would be like the Royals trading Bobby Wood Jr. for Garrett Cole and the Royals GM coming out and saying, well, pitching wins championships.
Yeah, I mean, it's nuts. The Mavericks GM, too, I loved this one, basically came out and said that there's concerns within the Mavericks organization about Luka's conditioning. And I don't know how you feel about your athletes and what shape they're in. I'd like them to show up in shape. Aaron Judge could show up wildly out of shape with a beer gut weighing 400 pounds. If he hits 57 home runs and 130 RBIs next year, I don't care what he looks like. Right. I don't care what shape he's in. I don't care that he's not a physical freak. I don't care. So Luka still puts up great numbers. So if he's out of shape and overweight, who cares? As long as the numbers are there. He's 25 years old, Stacey. It's mind-boggling.
Yeah. I didn't realize how young he was until I saw the news of the trade, I don't know why I thought of him, because he's been around for so long, because he's,
Because NBA players come over so early. Yeah.
he came over when he was a teenager, and when I saw that he was only 25, I thought to myself, that seems very, like, if you're worried about a 25-year-old's conditioning, you can tell them to take better care of themselves if they need to, and I think they would listen to you if
Yeah,
I
and
don't know.
what's funny is a 25-year-old in that peak level of athleticism could probably shed off the 20 pounds that you're concerned about in about a week.
Yeah,
I mean, he's eating healthy and running, 6 miles a game. He's gonna shed that weight off really, really quickly. But
yeah,
regardless of any of that, I mean, people define Luka Doncic as an untradeable player, and I think in sports there are players now. I mean, I know you can go back to the Wayne Gretzky stuff and the Herschel Walker stuff and claim that any player is untradeable, but I do think there are players like that in sports. There are untradeable players. I think Aaron Judge is one of those guys.
yes.
I think that's the kind of player that you always try to build around, and there is no trade packet. You will, if you put Aaron Judge on the open market, you will never get back proper value ever. You just, it won't happen. And that's the funny part about the Doncic trade, just to close up our basketball takes that we've now done this segment. They didn't shop Luka Doncic, and I wonder how our fans feel. And you guys can leave comments in the YouTube. We'd appreciate that. How would you feel if you found out the Yankees made a trade like this and didn't shop the player? Now, it's rare that the Yankees are sellers, and really the last time they were was 2016. But at that deadline, if you found out that they didn't shop Aroldis Chapman, how would you feel? Because I'd be furious. And apparently that's what the Mavericks did. They just approached the Lakers, and this is the trade that we won. The Lakers were like, seriously? All right. And they made the trade.
Yeah.
To not, could you imagine what the package would be if they made it public knowledge that they wanted to trade Luka Doncic? I mean, the offers would have been outrageous. To not do that feels like franchise, malpractice. And there are plenty of owners in baseball that are participating in that right now. We'll get to one of them a little later on. But it is just wild. I don't think we've ever seen a trade like this in baseball. There are trades that sometimes become fleeces just because the prospects don't pan out or what be. But we have never seen a trade like this where it's two major league players and there is a clear difference in the level. We've never seen a trade like this, I don't think.
Yeah, I will say this before we go to the break. A lot of Boston fans were happy about this trade because now the Mookie Betts trade is the second worst trade in sports in the last few years. So they have that going for them. Don't
All
forget,
right, that's a good one.
yeah, don't forget, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button on our videos, hit the notification so you know when our videos go up. You can also join the Locked On Yankees Insiders Club. The link is in the description. You get text from us. You can text us questions, comments, reactions to trades and signings. We send out the lineups during the season, roster moves, breaking news, so you don't have to check social media. There's a 14-day free trial. Coming up, is Aaron Judge just a regular season player? We'll discuss that next.
Guys, like I said earlier, it's finally the holidays. Super Bowl 59 is here. One game, two teams, endless possibilities. And there's no better way to make every play more exciting than there is with FanDuel Sportsbook. Now, whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on the coin toss, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action. They've got live betting all game long. You can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. The live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what happens on the field. And the app, it's super easy to navigate. Plus, knowing that you can place $5 and potentially win a $200 bonus bet for the Super Bowl, that's icing on the cake. All you got to do, download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. You bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's all available on FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel. It's an official partner of Super Bowl 59. And thanks again for making Locked On Yankees your first listen. Remember that every Friday is Fan Mail Friday. You can leave questions underneath our videos during the week, or you can join the Locked On Yankees Insiders Club to get top priority during Fan Mail Friday. That link is in our description. So, Stacey, a name that I didn't think we would be bringing up on the show for a while, but I think this is the first time since I've joined that this guy has actually been brought up because he's been let's just say irrelevant since. I'll allow you to go ahead.
Okay. Jonathan Papelbon. Everyone remember Jonathan Papelbon, former Red
Mhm.
Sox, national. Did he play with anyone else? I can't remember if he played with anyone
Got
else.
into a fight with Bryce Harper.
Yeah, it wasn't just a fight. He choked him out in the dugout.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's what I remember him for. He was on Foul Territory. That's a very popular podcast show that people are on all the time. And I think
Mhm.
he's a repeat guest. I think he's been on a few times. But he was talking about Aaron Judge and talking about his coming up short in the playoffs and wondering if he's basically calling him a regular season player, which, to be fair, lately, yeah, I don't disagree.
It's funny. I wanted to attack this topic because I don't like it necessarily when players for the team that I root for are attacked publicly.
Right.
And I wanted to find my angle of how I could defend Aaron Judge. And I can't.
It's
There
hard.
is no defense.
Yep.
And you know what? To his credit, he's played his way into this criticism. He just has. He hasn't performed in the postseason. He hasn't done enough. And he's had postseason moments. I don't want to take that away from him. We do sometimes when it's spoken about publicly, it is spoken like Aaron Judge is 0 for 100 in the postseason.
Right.
He does have big moments. He does have big hits. He has some big home runs. Like, he has come through in the postseason at times, but he hasn't done it at the superstar level that you need to for the kind of player that he is. I even went to Jonathan Papelbon because I'm sure, as a lot of Yankee fans are doing the exact same thing that I did when I saw that this was on our rundown. And they're going to go right to Baseball Reference and search Jonathan Papelbon. Let's see who he's talking about. Was he really good in the postseason? He was. Jonathan Papelbon only pitched in the postseason a few times. 2005, 2007, 2008, and 2009, all with Boston. Jonathan Papelbon, while he didn't pitch a lot of innings, he only appeared in 18 postseason games, 27 total innings, has a 1 ERA on the dot. And to credit that also, to make it even crazier to think about, the first run that he only gave up 3 runs in the postseason in his entire postseason career, those were all in an ALDS loss in 2009. Every other inning prior, he never gave up a run in the postseason. So while it wasn't a huge sample size, he did perform in the playoffs. He did. He was there. He performed for his team. Different position, but still a really pressure-packed position, closing out for those Red Sox teams. So, I want to sit here and defend Aaron Judge. I want to find a defense for him. I want to sit here and defend the play that he's been. I do think it's a little overblown that he can't play in the playoffs. I do think that's a little overblown.
Yeah.
But Stacey, Judge hasn't given us much of a case to defend him here.
This past postseason, he hit 184, 344, 408. With 3 home runs. He had a 752 OPS. He also struck out 20 times. Now, he walked 11 times, which isn't bad. And that was in 14 games. So, no, it wasn't an over. But you don't want the guy that you see hitting over 300 in the regular season, bashing 50 home runs and having no issues, come into the playoffs, batting my current body weight and striking out 20 times. You just don't want to see it.
And we've said this a ton of times, too, and it resonates perfectly. Listen, you can make all the upgrades you want in the offseason and do everything possible at the trade deadline. At the end of the day, you are not going to win a championship in all professional sports if your superstars don't perform like your superstars. You're just not. The guys that got you there have to continue to play at that elite level. And if they're not going to, generally, you're not going to win championships. And we can say this on the reversal of another one of the Yankee superstars. Say what you want about what Giancarlo Stanton does in the regular season. It's certainly fair game. But Stacey, he shows up every postseason for the Yankees. He does. He's an elite player in the postseason. Aaron Judge isn't. And that's not to say that he can't become that. That's not to say that his career couldn't be heading in that direction. Let's all remember, this is the same way that people spoke about A-Rod before 09. Right. It is. And I thought that was overblown too. I didn't agree with the takes on A-Rod before 09. I don't necessarily wholeheartedly agree with the Aaron Judge takes. But A-Rod came through and won a championship. And A-Rod was one of the biggest catalysts on that championship team. He's one of the reasons they won a championship that year.
Yep.
Aaron Judge hasn't done that yet. And listen, if the Yankees get out of the American League next year, and Aaron Judge has another 50 home run season, and they get to the World Series and he's not impressive, but he hits 6 home runs in a series against the Dodgers and they win, all will likely be forgiven. And they'll all forget about the previous years because he helped them win a championship. You got to do that first. And he hasn't done that.
Yeah, he really does. Papelbon did say this one interesting thing. He said, at the end of the day, all baseball players are mental, man. They all are. We're just built that way and we press. I mean, I've pressed. We've all pressed at certain times. And I think that the pressing from what he showed in the playoffs is going to just continue. I think he's going to be going up against much better pitching staffs in the AL East this year. Honestly, he thinks the struggles are going to continue. He thinks that we should all look out for the first month of Aaron Judge. And as we all know, his first month of 2024 was abysmal. And then he suddenly came alive. But I really think that oblique was still giving him trouble. And then he started feeling better in May. That's my theory. I don't think he was pressing. I think he was actually legit injured. He wanted to play it down and not sit out for the first month because Cole was already out. And I think he felt the pressure from that. So once he healed, he became Aaron Judge. And we say it all the time. Could you imagine what his numbers would have been like if he had a normal April?
He could have got 70 home runs last year. I mean, that's how good he was. Yeah. We will discuss at some point if we expect the Yankees to have any struggles going into the year because of the improved pitching around the American League. I'll tell you this, the Boston Red Sox are going to have a tremendously improved pitching staff. So there are teams that have improved in the American League East. It's weird that the Yankees are the favorites in the American League. And I think from the way we would judge it, probably the best team in the American League right now. And yet, when you look at the entire American League, the Yankees are in the toughest division in the American League also. So it's kind of weird the way that worked out. But I think a lot of people are on that train that they think that Aaron Judge might struggle coming into the year just because of the American League's improved pitching and the American League East's improved pitching. But, you know, again, these things, and we've said it a bunch of times too, that the Yankees, because of their track record as a franchise, Stacey, and because of the amount of championships they won, Derek Jeter is not Derek Jeter if he doesn't have the playoff moments he has. He's just not. And a lot of these guys in Yankee lore, you know, the common theme of all Yankee legends, minus Don Mattingly, is that they all won championships. It just is. Every Yankee legend has that on their marker. Aaron Judge doesn't have it. Don Mattingly doesn't have it. And not for nothing, and I didn't see Don Mattingly play, but I know you did, and he's one of your favorite players. The one mark that anyone ever brings up when it comes to Don Mattingly doesn't have a ring. That's what everybody says, and he was a great player. And
although that wasn't his fault, the one time he was in the playoffs in that DS against the Mariners, he was tremendous. Yeah.
And I'm
he
sure
did not shy away from the spotlight at all. Like he was just like, all right, I'm here. Let's do this.
And I'm sure if he stuck around in '96, they would have still won with him on that team because he was tremendous. But that's the one marker that he has on his career. It's the one blemish on his resume is that he did not win a championship, and he's the one Yankee legend who never won a title. And now it's coming to the point where, what are you going to be if you're Aaron Judge? Are you going to fall into the category with Tom Mattingly, or are you going to fall into the category with all the other Yankee legends who have championships? You know,
right. All right. Well, coming up next, we're going to be talking about the latest MLB owner to cry poor. So I didn't hear about this. You had to tell me about this. So now we can add Tom Ricketts, owner of the Cubs, to the list of MLB owners who are bitching and moaning about the Dodgers spending and how they can't spend as much as the Dodgers. Poor babies.
Yes. So Stacey, do you, just out of curiosity, and this is sort of rhetorical because I know you know the answer to it, but let's play along. Do you know what makes the richest owners in baseball so unbelievably wealthy? What is the team's big cash cow that makes them a lot of money? What do the Yankees have? What do the Red Sox have? What do the Dodgers have? What do the Mets have? Their own regional sports network. SNY. Yes. Nesson. Everyone's got their own brand TV station. Another one of those things I can add to is Marquee Sports Network. It's the regional sports network that covers the Cubs games that has them on. Stacey, do you know how much money the Cubs make in profit off of Marquee Sports Network per year? This is not shared revenue, by the way. This is all going into the pocket of Tom Ricketts. Do you know how much?
I'm afraid to ask.
about $161 million in profit per year. About Carlos Rodon's entire contract per year. And he owns the Chicago Cubs. He is worth $2.3 billion. That's not including the price tag on the Chicago Cubs, who are currently ranked number 4 in all of baseball when it comes to Forbes, at $4.3 billion. That is not the accurate price of what the Cubs would sell for if Tom Ricketts put them up for sale. The Chicago Cubs would likely sell for somewhere in the neighborhood of about $8 billion if you put them.
I was going to say,
of the legendary franchise, Wrigley Field, the renovations they've made to it, Wrigleyville as a whole, and their roster. I'll say this: if you're a passionate Cubs fan living in the Chicago area and you're hopeful about their odds of re-signing Kyle Tucker and bringing him back, boy, are we off to a terrible start in Wrigleyville. First you brought him to arbitration, and now you're crying poor? Ooh, it doesn't look good for the Cubs.
Ugh. It's just, I find it so funny that these guys, like, oh, what did I say last week? This is all setting up for the lockout in 2026, because these guys are just going to keep crying about this stuff. And it's interesting. The news came out that former MLB commissioner Fay Vincent passed away at the age of 86. May he rest in peace. And a lot of people were talking about how he was the last commissioner that didn't work for the owners. Like, he was the one that, like, he was one of the last commissioners that actually cared about baseball and wasn't in the owner's pockets, so to speak. Like, he wasn't like how Manfred is, how Selig was. You know, I mean, he's the one who suspended George Steinbrenner, like, for a lifetime. And then they decided to bring George back, but he was going to be gone. Like, he was banned, and he did the Pete Rose ban also. Like, you know, Fay Vincent was no joke. And these owners now don't have the same problem. Rob Manfred is like, oh yeah, poor babies. You know, we'll figure something out.
And the sport prints money. It does.
Yeah.
The sport profits every single year. It's a multi-billion-dollar profiting sport per year. So the owners aren't complaining. They're fine with this. And, you know, it's interesting the way the Dodgers have approached this postseason, because the Yankees have spent I think they've fallen just a little bit short of our expectations. I feel like they could fit Bregman in at this point and it wouldn't be a problem, but whatever. They don't want to sign him. That's fine. But the Dodgers have seemed to approach this offseason with a strategy that I don't think anyone can ever complain about, where they basically approached it with, oh, you're all not going to spend? Fine, we're just going to outspend all of that. And we're just going to prove how much spending does. And it's weird, though. When you look at all of the contracts that they've given out, the one that you can accuse of maybe being an overpay is the Yamamoto contract.
Right.
Every other guy that they have on there is at perfect market value. I mean, when you look at Ohtani, with the deferred money and stuff, it's really $43 million a year, which is a bargain for Shohei Ohtani. It is. And look at the rest of their team. I mean, go around the rest of the roster. Mookie Betts, $32 million a year. Bargain. Freddie Freeman, $23 million a year.
That's
bargain.
A big bargain.
Tanner Scott, $18 million a year. Bargain. They're not overpaying people. They're just spending their money. And they're not.
Too.
Yeah. Kirby Yates, $16 million a year. They're not going crazy
Blake
when it
Snell,
comes to spending.
Tyler
Blake
Glasnow.
Snell, $37 million a year. Tyler Glasnow, $39 million a year. They're not overspends. They're not crazy contracts. They're perfectly in market. And you can claim Yamamoto, sure, that might be an overspend. Other than that, every guy is in market. They're just spending and nobody else is. And that's why it seems like it's such a big deal that the Dodgers are doing this, because no one else is willing to. So I think they're just making the rest of baseball look bad. And they're literally going at it with the philosophy of, listen, if you're not all going to go get these players, then we'll just take them. And that's what they're doing. And, you know, it's built them this kind of super team, but whose fault is that? You know, the Dodgers might not have been able to get all of these players if they were teams like the Padres or the Pirates or the Rockies, or just name any other team that was also bidding on these players. The problem is no one is. No one's contacting them. No one's trying to spend their money. So the Dodgers are like, we'll take them. Sure. That's the problem with baseball. And until someone comes along and tries to stop that, you know, it's not going to change. And the problem, too, is, Stacey, the rest of the owners in the sport don't care. That they're crying poverty and claiming they can't spend money like this, as if the Dodgers are printing more. Like, significantly more money than everybody else. Newsflash, they're not. They're making the Yankees make more profit than the Dodgers per year, by the way.
Yeah.
That's the problem, Stacey, is a lot of these owners are too content with the money that they're profiting in with the way the system works, that they're just cool with it. Go ahead. You want to spend your money? Sounds good. I'll collect the rest of mine.
Doesn't it feel like the Dodgers are doing what we all thought the Mets were going to do with Steve Cohen as the owner?
Yeah. And you know what? I think the Mets' plan is to do that in the next, half decade. But the Mets want to build their farm system up first, like the Dodgers have done. Ideally, you want to spend this money.
Yeah.
You want to spend this money once you're backed up with your farm and you can make trades and improve yourself. You don't want to spend this money before that. So it feels like the Mets are trying to become that in the next decade or so.
Yeah.
Which we'll see if that's what happens. Who knows? That's what the Soto thing feels like. We're going to build, but once a player like this becomes available, we'll go out and spend for him because Soto's going to be there for the next decade and a half. That's their plan, at least, with the way the contract looks. So that's kind of like a reasoning. But, I kind of agree with that point, though, Stacey, is that I don't think the Dodgers are going extra crazy. They're not outspending other people. They're not overspending for players. They're not outbidding other people. They're not doing what the Mets did with Soto. That's not what they're doing. And they have the ability to do that. The problem is what they're seeing is a large percentage of the league is just deciding to not spend their dollars. And the Dodgers are like, sure, we'll spend it. And that's what they're doing. Did they go after Burns? No. Were they after Soto? No. They valued all of those as gross overpays. But you know what they didn't value a gross overpay? Blake Snell at the money that he got. Way less than what Burns got, way less than what Yamamoto got from them. They went out there and they got Tanner Scott. They made the bullpen upgrades that generally result in winning championships. They brought back Blake Trinan. They've made all these kind of moves that they keep signing other guys and you go, oh, they got him. Well, the reason why they got him is because no one else is involved in negotiations. No one else approached these guys. So they're like, we'll take them. It just feels like, what's funny is I'm starting to hate the Dodgers less as the offseason goes on. I'm just starting to hate more of Major League Baseball than I am the Dodgers. They're just taking advantage of where the system's at, and I wish the Yankees kind of did more of it, and the Yankees still did take advantage of it. But, I don't want to hear the Cubs crying poverty when, they basically gave Cody Bellinger away. They made it known going into the offseason they didn't want to keep him, and they just basically gave him away. I don't want to hear you cry in poverty when you have a regional sports network that's profiting $160 million a year, and you spent zero of that, including going to arbitration to fight the player you just traded the top prospect in baseball for over $250,000. Not a good look.
Ridiculous. It's very interesting stuff. It really is. I'm just sick of these guys, especially Hal. Like, why are you even complaining? You should be doing what the Dodgers are doing. Like, just stop already.
They made more profit. The Yankees made more profit than the Dodgers last year. Think about that. They made more money than the Dodgers last year. So I don't want to hear how much the Guggenheim partners can spend. We know they can spend a lot of money. So can the Steinbrenners.
Yeah. Yankees, thank you for making us your first listen today. For your second listen, you can find Locked On MLB. Baseball guru Sully brings you a daily blend of humor and baseball, keeping you updated on every rumor and story throughout the offseason. You can find Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. A reminder, this is our last week of the offseason. We're doing 3 episodes this week, and then we move up to 5. We're back to 5 until whenever the Yankees are eliminated from the playoffs.
November, hopefully.
Hopefully it's November. So yeah, we're getting there. It's February, guys. Can you believe it's February? Finally? Yeah. Did January not feel like the longest month ever? It felt like a year, really.
Agreed. But listen, once the holidays are over on Sunday, we get to baseball season.
That's right. Once that's over, it's baseball season. So that'll do it for this edition of Locked On Yankees. I'm Stacey Gotsulias.
And I'm Brian McKeon. We'll catch you guys later on in the week.